Hey everyone, it's John here from Untitled Hockey, back with another video, and this video is going to be why the Toronto Maple Leafs will or could win the Stanley Cup. I just want to say right off the bat before people get frustrated, I've made videos already for this, the Capitals, the Jets, and I'm going to make more videos based on the teams that I think could win the Stanley Cup, and I'm going to give the reasoning on behalf of why the Toronto Maple Leafs will win the Stanley Cup. So I'm going to go through my reasoning. Of course, if you are new to the channel, please subscribe, give it a chance, please smash that like button, and leave your thoughts in the comment section below. You can fully disagree with this statement. I'm going to go through the reasoning why they could. So definitely leave your thoughts. Do you think the Leafs could? Do you think the Leafs will not? Definitely let me know. I think one player needs to get talked about more, and he was up for the Norris last year, and for me, got snubbed, didn't get nominated, and that's Morgan Rielly. I think people look at his stats this year and go, oh, he had this garbage year. And honestly, he had a down year, but there was reasons for that. He got injured. Half the games that he played, or close to half the games he played of those 47 games, he was playing with an injury. He wasn't fully 100%, and he admitted to that. Last year and the year before, there were in particular games where he was the best player on the ice, just overall. People always target the Leafs in terms of their defense, and there's a lot of other teams that have weak defenses going into this playoffs. I think this playoffs is going to be heavily momentum-based, heavily who's ready, who's been training, and you know what, for the Leafs in terms of the training, maybe that's not, I would say, an advantage for them, because some other players and a lot of other players that have been training in Sweden and stuff, and some people will say for the Leafs, they've been lounging around, but I'm going to go over some reasons beyond this, and Morgan Rielly, I think for me, is a big X factor. Ilia Mccabe, this guy has not been lounging around. He got hurt. He only played 39 games this year, 23 points. At the end of this year, he'll be needing a contract. 2, he's 25, going right into his prime. People have talked about he steps up in the playoffs. In the KHL last year, 11 points in 13 games. He's coming in, and people are saying he's stronger. He has more of a sense for the ice right now. His shot has gotten better. So I think for Mccabe, this is a guy that's going to come in, and he's got that size. He's going to potentially be on that line with Marner and Tavares. I think he could be a huge X factor in that top 6. A very overlooked and underrated X factor, but I think he could be one. And that brings me to a different kind of player who might have a different mindset and who maybe has been, I would say, treating this break a little differently, because with Mccabe, he's been working. He's been working to get back to 100% through that injury. But this guy, Kasperi Kapanen, this is the guy that some people might say has been lounging around. 23 years of age. He hasn't been consistent at all, and obviously inconsistent, that's not a good word to tag along with you. But Kapanen has somewhat of an X factor. I would say maybe a clutch factor. 2017, that game-winning goal in Game 2 against the Capitals. 2018, to put the Leafs ahead of the Bruins, which they ended up choking that game. But Kapanen sometimes steps up in big moments. And in a situation where you're coming in fresh, you're going to get this training camp, and you're going into the playoffs, it depends what side Kapanen is on, where he could be a huge X factor or just completely non-existent. And for the Leafs' sake, if Kapanen is hot, he could be a huge X factor, an absolute huge X factor, especially if he's coming in on that third line, on that second power play unit, on the penalty kill as well, potentially. Kapanen could be a huge X factor. So if I'm pointing towards Kapanen, who maybe numbers-wise had a little bit of a down year, I don't think he was going to reach 20 goals, but still, at some moments this season, and we'll see if he's playing with guys like Engvall and Kerfoot, who he actually had success with, I think that could be a very fast line. We know Engvall's wheels. We know Kapanen's wheels when he's going. We know Kerfoot. We don't know if Robertson's going to be in the picture, but that third line is going to have wheels. And I want to talk about this guy, because this is probably the biggest X factor for the Leafs. If Anderson's on his game or not will be the make or break for the Leafs. Anderson had his worst save percentage year of his career. The roller coaster of a year, Babcock starting the year, Anderson just wasn't playing well for a lot of the season. And I would say outside of Toronto, obviously in Toronto, fans knew that, a lot of people knew that, but everyone was just like, oh, Anderson's still a great goalie. No, just this year he did not play well. So if Anderson can step up, if he can move on from this poor season and he had this break, we'll see what happens. I think the way Anderson's been communicating and just how he has said he wants to get back into it, he seems motivated. He seems like he's dialed in. They were talking about even in the scrimmage, he looked focused, and even allowing one crappy goal Buddy got frustrated. So I think Anderson, if he can step up, this team can go far. Power play. I mean, looking at Anderson and talking about moving past game sevens, moving past a first round series or initial round series, like obviously Anderson, but the power play, special teams. The Leafs need to take advantage of special teams. This team arguably is a top 3 power play in the league. And if they can show up on the power play consistently in the playoffs, that is going to be a ridiculous advantage. Especially if you're doubling down and having Matthews play potentially a minute and a half or even more on the power play and having Matthews play 23 minutes a night. That's going to be a crazy advantage to the Leafs. Where you saw Babcock limiting Matthews to 18, 19 minutes in a game 7, that's ridiculous. Adding 3 or 4 minutes on top of Matthews playing longer power plays, this unit, Matthews, Nylander, Tavares, Marner, and Tyson Barrie playing longer minutes on the power play, that's going to be a huge advantage for the Leafs. So if I have to talk about an X factor and why they can go far and potentially go to the Cup Finals, this is it right here. If they can run off this power play and run off their top 6, they can go far. And Kiefer, Sheldon Keefe. This guy's a winner. He showed it in junior. He showed it in the AHL, and now he's here. This is a guy that turned it around. With the Sioux, he could have won one of those years, but lost both times to McDavid and the Otters. In the AHL, the development you saw from that team and then turning it into a championship team in 2018 and winning in 2018 now comes in with a fresh training camp with a team that he started 15-4-1, I believe, with the Leafs, and that was the best record in the first 20 games from a Leafs coach. So he came in and had a big impact, and maybe that was momentum driven, and that's what I'm talking about with the Leafs. If they can start off on the right foot and have that kind of start, the way they started with Keefe, where we're talking about 15-4-1, think about the amount of games they'd be playing in the playoffs. If they can go a 20-game stretch, that's called going to the Stanley Cup Final, and that's this Leafs team. Anyone that's watched this Leafs team enough knows they are crazy momentum driven. They'll go a 20-game stretch where this team's insane, this team's the best in the league, and then they'll go a next 20-game stretch where this team's barely a playoff team. So if they can go on that spectrum of where they're that top team in the league, I think this team could be unstoppable for, a lot of the reasons I just listed. So let me know what you think. I think this team, it can be one of the best in the league. I think this team can go on a run. But of course, their defense, it worries me if Cody Ceci's playing more minutes. It worries me if Anderson's not on the top of his game. It worries me if a guy like Matthews or Marner don't show up. If Nylander can't show up. I think I didn't even talk about Nylander enough. I think Nylander's a guy that obviously played horrible. A lot of people that have been subscribed to this channel know I was on Nylander so much last playoffs because, yeah, he was the worst player in the playoffs. It was embarrassing. After holding out with the contract and then the season and then going to the playoffs, this is the guy that needs to show up in the playoffs. William Nylander, he had a great season. Show it in the playoffs now. So William Nylander, I should reiterate it. This guy's got to show up. But if those 4 top guys, Nylander, Tavares, Matthews, and Marner, and it'll be interesting with the matchups because I'm sure Tavares might get tougher matchups to alleviate what Matthews can get and the opportunities he can get. But then on the other side, of course, a team like the Blue Jackets and Tortorella and beyond that, they're going to match up against Matthews as well. So it's going to be interesting on both sides. But the Leafs have options up front. They have that star power. I think their defense sometimes is categorized as one of the worst, which honestly, it's not great, but it's not the worst either. And I think guys like Travis Dermott could step up. I think Tyson Barrie, he's another person I haven't talked about enough in this video because Tyson Barrie, we saw last year with the Avalanche, he's a huge playoff performer. We've seen him in the playoffs a couple times, and he steps up. He truly steps up, and that's what the Leafs are hoping from him in the playoffs, and a guy like Jake Muzzin who has that extreme playoff experience with the LA Kings. So there's just these guys that have that opportunity to step up, and if they do, the Leafs, of course, will be a scary team, but that's obviously a huge if. There's just complete dynamics to this team where, yeah, they're offensive, and people will categorize them as a team that wins 7-5, but if they can buckle down, if they can work special teams, if they can succeed in special teams, and Anderson's on the top of his game, I think this team can go far. And in terms of the statement, why the Leafs will win the Stanley Cup, why the Toronto Maple Leafs will win the 2020 Stanley Cup, those are some of the reasons. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you're new. Smash that like button. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. If you disagree with that statement, hey, I'll get to you and let's have a conversation. Let's talk on the channel. I live stream a lot on here. I'll be live streaming through the playoffs, so I do hope to see you more. This was John from Untitled Hockey. Have a good one. Peace out.